Network.
Good evening and welcome to the Psychic Call Show. I'm Aeson Knight. Of course, we got a guest tonight. So, guys, we will say hello now early. Questions will be at the second part of the show. We'll take them then. Feel free to comment if you got questions for our guest, the Traveling Nomad. Let's bring him on, and he can tell us a little bit about himself. Come over here. There we go. Hello. You've got a bunch of books out on the Visionary Quest, which is awesome. I'm in the middle of book 2. So tell us about yourself. How'd you get into writing?
Sure. Thanks for having me on. First and foremost, I just want to say I thoroughly enjoy having these sorts of conversations. So right to your question, I initially got into the whole process of writing after my initial ayahuasca experience. And in a nutshell, I simply came back from it. I had left the country, went to Costa Rica for a retreat, and I came back, and it simply seemed like I had too much information to just sit on, and I wanted to do something useful with it, as well as process and integrate it, and that process just naturally turned into writing for me.
Cool. Awesome. So why did you go to go do the retreat? What was the thing there? Because I've talked to a few people. Some of them do it for enlightenment. Others do it for health reasons, medical reasons.
Right. I mean, all of the above, but in short, it was curiosity with ayahuasca. But the reason that I initially stepped into the psychedelic world was to heal. It was to heal a heartbreak specifically. And that was seemingly the path that was presented for me. And then after exploring the mushroom many times, and having some experience and acquired some, I decided to push it forth into Costa Rica with Mother Ayahuasca and see what then could be unveiled.
Okay. Can you share about that experience? Some for those that's never heard of it, because a lot of our audience is like, ayahuasca, what's that? Is that a mushroom? Is that
Right, of course. So ayahuasca is a plant medicine that's been used in the Amazon for hundreds, potentially thousands of years. And it's simply the vine of one plant, which is the ayahuasca vine, and the leaves of another, which contain the active DMT, and blended together and distilled down in a liquid concoction. They are then consumed, which makes the active DMT orally absorbable, and then it would have an effect on the body, because otherwise monoamine oxidized within the gut would break down the DMT and you wouldn't have an effect. DMT is pretty generally available across the board in many plants, so if we were to eat them and constantly be tripping, that wouldn't work out. So the whole purpose of combining the leaves with the vine is to make it useful so that you could have a whole experience. And it is truly visionary medicine. So it's often regarded as odd that the Westerners would venture down and take it just based on curiosity, because typically it's used to heal an ailment, or to heal spirituality in some way, something that has gone awry. But it seems to me that those two things are wrapped up into our curiosity, and they certainly were for me. I was off, and I didn't exactly know why, but I felt a call of the medicine, and that I'm labeling as curiosity, which then took me on its road of trials and began to give me any number of things that I needed to improve my quality of being.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. So you've got 5 out now, right?
Correct. There was one initial book that I started with the whole process, but right now I'm launching this Visionary Quest series, which is essentially just a series of short, entertaining, and hopefully somewhat enlightening trip reports.
Right, and interesting information coming, looking at your trip reports, and then looking at other visionary questers that have wrote. It's like, are y'all guys on the same boat? I mean,
You just mean with the similarity of experiences?
similarity of experiences, similarity of information,
Yeah.
similarity of looking at the symbolization and going, okay, this dude's in China, this dude's in Texas. Which I want to talk a little bit about your experiences in Texas because you know have gone through a lot this past year. They're looking at the same things, except one is using, Visionary Quest this way, and the other is using another form of Visionary Quest. And I'm like, okay, what the world? But I find it really interesting when I start. It's like mediumships, and different mediums in different areas will come out with books, and they have a lot of the same theme behind them, but they know nothing about each other.
Right, for sure. And I would say, first of all, it's extraordinarily big in the
Hmm.
transcendent realm.
Right,
That just need be stated. But at the same time, obviously, we are merely different lenses looking at the
right,
same suchness. So we come back with a commonality of description that certainly leads us to believe what you just said, that we're describing essentially the same place. And that just adds to what's going on there. And we're just seeing it from our different angles.
right, and totally different viewpoints, but it's still the same thing of, wow, this is kind of interesting. Um, so Wild Harrier strips like the Spaceship Strip Club. Can you share that one of your favorites to that?
Sure. Usually, the way that I end up using the medicines, the last trip or the last vision quest ends up being the most significant to me because I often liken them to a breadcrumb and I'm attempting to use them to follow the trail to highest
Hmm.
and best personal use in the world. So, the last one that I had was fairly significant. I took a whole week off of work and I went out to the desert in western Texas. And I was out there for 4 days. That was the total time that I was there for the Vision Quest. And on the last day, I had a heroic dose of mushrooms, more than I've ever had at any other time in my life. And it basically seemed like I was called to do that throughout the course of the Vision Quest that unveiled itself to me. And it felt appropriate, and I did. And I would say one of the strangest yet seemingly valid experiences I've ever had happened then. In a nutshell, it seemed to me, and I was convincing myself that within that experience, I was able to use willpower, to command the breeze, like physically
Okay.
the breeze. I was out in a tent in the middle of the desert in the middle of the day, and I began feeling the breeze come through, and it felt good. And
Hmm.
I asked for a little bit more of that. And it
Hmm.
seemed like I got some. And then through the process of working with this, I understood that language and the concepts of thinking and the way that we attach them to labels were all sort of unnecessary. They were basically muddling the process. And the impression that I was left with was that if you, with a pure and distilled intent, press upon the framework of reality your specific energy signature, you
Hmm.
can generate the natural results within the framework of reality. And it's like a coherent structure. It's just a matter of knowing how it works. And another big takeaway from that was I was given the understanding that this essentially is faith. It is interchangeable with knowing how this sort of grid work works. So
Hmm.
hopefully that sort of satisfies.
Oh, it does satisfy, and it really, you bring up an excellent point there because that's been a framework of a lot of things, from like the secret, law of attraction, all these other things. They miss the point of that everything is a connected web. We see that a lot in Norse mythology of the weird sisters and them spinning the web. And that you can influence those threads and change that reality to where it wants to go. And it's really interesting to hear this coming out from some. I know you call them tripping. I'm calling to call them what I think they are, which is trance work. You
Mhm.
get into a trance one way or another, and then coming up with that construction of, yes, we influence our reality. We just have to know which thread to touch or which block of tapestry to play with to change where we want to go at.
Right. That experience was like the acute perception that I had within that vision quest. But I think, as you referred to with the law of attraction, that essentially takes place always. We're always imprinting our energetic signature within the grid work of reality. And to the degree that we're doing it consciously and with intent, it
Hmm.
does seem like the natural feedback of that will be to reflect the results of that signature. Now, I don't know if that always means getting exactly what you think you want, because there seems to always be a difference between your soul level evolution and what the ego forecasts. So it seems like you get what you need, as the
Right.
Stones would say, but right, not always what you want. But anyway,
Right.
the thing works just fine. The system operates to its fullest, and it's just a matter of us knowing how to work with that to best evolve.
Right. And to build within that energy. And can you take us through your normal process?
Sure, it's very simple, and I liked what you used there, just trance work. That's a fine way I would
Yeah.
describe it. I mean, in essence, all that I do with these things more often than not is I simply take it, usually the mushroom, if it's within the states, and I'm always alone. It's usually under the shroud of nightfall,
Hmm.
and then I just let it show me what it needs to.
Hmm.
I attempt, depending on where I am, to simply cut myself off from all sensory input except for music. That is the one thing that I will continue to use. So that actually helps, I think, kind of keep you removed from your environment. Assuming you're in a safe place, there's
Hmm.
nothing wrong with this, and it just helps you, I have found, just go deeper into the experience. And then so behind the veil of your
Hmm.
closed eyes, which you might call just a meditation, but it's simply eliminating the sensory input, you have thinned the veils between worlds, and
Right.
now you're there, and it's up to you how to navigate within such a space. And of course, there's a certain amount of surrender that just needs to take place as well. But within this space is where you can gain information that hopefully you'll be able to bring back and integrate into your life. So as you've done something useful with it, you've improved it a little bit. And in this way, I have often said, you never quite come back the same,
Right.
because you always come back. But hopefully, good or bad, whatever the experience was, you've gotten something a little bit more. Now you're a little bit more informed moving forward. And due to that, the world changes around you when you treat it differently. So, yeah, they truly are illuminating in every sense of the word and help you redirect your character's path.
Right. Now, I'm just going to say to make the lawyers happy, we are not suggesting that you go do this. If you're going to do some type of mushrooms or something else, please seek out an elder or someone that understands dosage and, the type and the strength, and follow that path. It's like the ayahuasca trips. They're led by a shaman down there. It isn't like you just pull up to the local botanical, go, I want some of that and 2 vials of that, and let's mix it together and hit the beach. That's not how that happens. Can you share that experience with people?
Yeah, that is the wisdom of tradition, obviously, right there. And the only reason I hesitate is because that is all true. That's definitely the case. You want to make sure you're as careful and as safe and as well researched as you possibly can be with such things, because that's just going to help give you the best possible experience by setting your mindset up properly going in. My hesitation was because when I initially ventured into such realms, I didn't. I didn't have that mindset exactly at place. I knew in place. I knew I wanted to use them for healing, and my basic approach was just to strategically attempt to explore with it in a safe environment and context, and then see what would come from there.
Hmm.
And of course, that wrapped directly into what you said. Eventually, that did lead me into using the medicine within proper circles, if you will,
Hmm.
certainly within the ayahuasca ceremony.
Right.
And then even after that, with my personal explorations, and this last one was a big one, which was telling me that the intent of the experience, it truly is everything, and that is tried and true wisdom. So why you're using it is going to definitely shade the experience. And when it comes to a proper set and setting and context with a supervision of a perhaps a worthy shaman, this is all going to help guide the intent of the collective ceremony. And I would say that
Right.
would be of great value. But if you can't quite get to that point, just at the very least know that intent certainly matters. And you need to ask yourself purely why it is that you're using such things.
Right. And, it isn't just to take a brain vacation. There's plenty of other substances out there, belladonna for one, that can give you a brain vacation. Um, this is definitely not that type of a trip, or LSD from the 70s. It's not that type of trip. This is very much a spiritual experience, from what I understand. So what happens after you come back? You say that your reality's changed a little bit. Like, do you come home and just blow the keyboard off your laptop?
No, usually with the writing process for me, that is the integration, at least the first stage of it.
Mm,
So universally and across the board, I would just say for everyone out there, if you go out and you have an experience and you gain some information, that's great. You've gotten the treasure, so to speak. But of course, the journey doesn't end there, right? You now have the task of bringing it back home, and that simply means integrating it so that it is truly useful, and you're actually taking the info you found and putting it to play in such a way that changes the way you behave
mm-hmm.
for the better in the world. So what that does look like for me is the process of writing about it and then reflecting, of course, upon it. And that does seem to simply allow you to structure your thoughts in a way that I don't know that many other things do. Conversation is a very good example of a way that you can structure your thoughts, and it's often regarded as necessary within the ayahuasca circles that you speak about your experience afterward, oftentimes collectively in a group where people go around and share in a circle. The reason for that is simply to begin to structure some of the abstractions that you just received the night previous or the day previous or whatever, and begin to put some order to them. But then to further extend that, I would think in a way that's most responsible and useful is just simply to write about it and
Mm-hmm.
to even begin to then attempt to take action in a series of like coherent steps or something on what it is that you learned. Because like you said, this is a spiritual exercise and
Right.
you're not going here just to play around. If you gain something, even if it's inconsistent with what your ego thought it needed to do, you should probably consider putting it to play for your growth.
Right. And also, plant medicine's been used for a while. There is some stigma to it, especially any that's alter stated. What's your thoughts? Do we leave it in the spiritual realm? Does it go to the medical realm? Should it go to the therapeutic realm? Where is your ideas on that?
Yeah, I don't know that I have any really fully formed ones. I think it's spectacular that we seem to be catching up in mainstream science with the benefits of specifically the active in mushrooms,
Mm-hmm.
psilocybin, as well as generally across the board the medical benefits of ayahuasca. These things have been medicines, and they are, and it seems like our modern world is now catching up with this and studying them further. That's spectacular. If they can be used to help
Mm-hmm.
more people than they have been, then who cares who's running that flagship? I think that's spectacular. That's
Right.
great. And it does seem like we are on the brink, perhaps, of a psychedelic renaissance. Are you guys seeing that too?
We are. We're also seeing that being used, and this commonly happens in medicine. People do Western medicine till there is nothing else. They'll do this pill, that pill, this combination of pills, this, and then they have no help, especially in chronic pain situations. And what I'm seeing a lot of use is in microdosing of the mushroom, and using that as pain management, but also doing these trance works to figure out why that pain's being stored in the physical body.
Right, exactly. To get down into the deeper layers of it and figure out the actual root of the problem. I don't have a ton of experience using it to heal a physical ailment, but I have done that before. And it might be something just relatively trivial, such as like a lower back that was bothering me and aching and such. And it was about a year ago, I specifically recall. I went on a adventure, a vision quest, and I had my intent set for it, and I gained something from it. But kind of the back end of it, I simply asked, can I have this lower back taken care of? And it wasn't immediately, but within the next week or so, I honestly did notice it start to stretch out, feel better, and it was pretty much gone before I knew it. And that was always kind of a head scratcher to me because I never had done that for anything physical before, but it
Mm-hmm.
seemed to actually work. And
Right.
and it's not surprising that it would.
Right. But no, there's a lot of it. I'll call it experimentation because I think all medicine is experimentation. There is some experimentation to see if microdosing works to relieve the chronic pain, the chronic issues, immune response issues also. Have you seen any side effects from your Vision Quest other than you come back and it's like, okay, I got to take a few more days to get into this lower vibration?
Sometimes after the experience with the mushroom, especially heavy dosages, a headache sets in.
Okay.
That happens with the larger amounts. It always goes away when you go to sleep. Other than that, not really. I can't say that I've noticed too many downsides, and especially when compared to the benefits that have come
Right.
from it. Yeah. In many ways, I have found that the psychedelics in general
Hmm.
simply do clarify
Right.
lenses of perception, and they decondition and they help you see, and they help you heal. It might very well be that they're putting your perception or your local self in touch with itself in a way that just allows harmony to almost be reinstated. And that might even be out of conscious control or awareness, but it's almost like a very healthy reset, it seems.
Hmm.
And body, mind, and spirit all sort of get that reset button pushed with a significant experience. And that seems to be undeniable and nothing but beneficial.
Okay. Well, what about now? I've heard stories. I wasn't alive then, so but I've heard stories of people doing mushrooms and coming out and like writing number one songs and write. How's your creativity when you come out?
I have a little bit messed around with perhaps playing the acoustic guitar or something like that while coming down at the back end of the experience, or maybe jotting a couple notes down. But in all honesty, I've never done much of that. And my line of logic there is simply because I feel like when in that space, that is sort of, for lack of a better phrase, that's the game. That's game time, right?
Hmm.
In this work or whatever that it is that I'm doing. And so while there, I want to be experiencing and recording as much, like mentally recording that is,
Hmm.
as much as is possible. And I don't want to encumber that process at all with like writing about it then, or even really describing it or trying to reflect upon it as it's happening. It's just
Hmm.
simply an immersion into it. And then naturally, as you begin to slide down and drift back into consensus reality, you have the opportunity to reflect on what you gain. And that's almost a practice wherein you could pull back the big elements of the experience and begin to almost rehearse them for yourself, sort of like you would when coming out of a dream. If there was something significant you dreamed about, right, and you know it's important, you want to remember it, you could begin to cycle it for yourself so that it does stick to your conscious mind when you come back, and now you've got the treasure. So anyway, that process requires a lot of attention, at least for me, and that's generally what I try to do in there is get some kind of treasure. So I try to keep as focused as I can on that process.
Hmm. When you're transing, for example, this last one you went on, your body was in the desert in Texas. Where was your mind and your consciousness?
Not in this not even in this universe, I was gonna say. I mean,
Yeah,
but truly, I'm not trying to be flippant with that. I mean,
I don't think you
honestly,
are. I think it's
right.
very important to talk about, are you in the astral? Are you in another dimension? Or are you in the void the void in general?
That's very good. No, I wasn't quite in the void. I've been there before with ayahuasca.
Uh-huh.
Terrifying, absolutely terrifying. But no, this time around, in a short description, I suppose what I would say is, I just left. Of course, I was in the tent, eyes closed, sort of meditative posture, all this, and I left the 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 world basically and the universe, and I saw essentially that the world here is a classroom for us to learn, grow, and sculpt our consciousness. But at the same time, the what I refer to as the higher order principles, what I think it is that we're here to learn how to do. For example, to love, to grow, to be transparent and honest and truthful, and all this stuff with our fellow man. I think that that is something like, at least this last Vision Quest spoke to me, that it was something like the most effective strategy for transcending three-dimensional reality and then moving on to the next stage of the game. And physically, where I was is I can't. quite describe it, but it was certainly not of this place, of this universe. It was like you were outside of it. And of course, many times what comes to mind in these spaces is Christ consciousness, or the consciousness of the enlightened ones who have perhaps maintained such a space before.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever run into them?
No, I have not myself. I know it's very common to run into various prophets or the Buddha sort of form and such. I, off the top of my head, cannot think of any time that I have had that experience. What I have had, I will say along those lines, is an encounter with the infinite intelligence of existence itself, and that was simply represented to me in the form of the figure eight. And I asked,
Very
I
cool.
yeah, I asked to see, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what I was shown.
Right. A lot of people don't know, but like the theory of ascended masters actually came out of trance work, and a lot of this type of working and going, okay, well, these masters have been able to maintain space here and then there. And I've always just heard it called there. So I was like, do you have a name for it? Some people call it the altar realm, the other side, that type of thing.
Right. I suppose I don't lean on any one particular. I found myself using the spirit world more often lately, which
Okay.
I suppose is adequate
Makes
enough. But
sense.
I like what you said there.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, there's definitely an other there. And absolutely, it seems like the Ascended Master certainly would have had the ability to dance between worlds or maintain that mental space and walk among us.
Right. So what you've got the 5 books, which are wonderful. They're great stories, they're great sharing of information. What have you come to personally? Because you went into this heartbroken, you went into this with ideas of how to hit that things needed to change in your life. What has been a result?
One of the most prominent ones is I gave up alcohol. I quit drinking. I'm coming up on 5 years sober. And that was a very
Congratulations.
clear fork in the road that resulted from the psychedelic path and specifically ayahuasca. It became clear to me that I was either going to put all that away and write in order to improve, to grow and learn in this world, or not. And once it was framed that way, it wasn't even a choice. Of course, we're here to do just that. So that might be one of the most significant things along my life path that allowed me to move forward because it was to step out of a trap. The
Mhm.
way that I used alcohol, it was a trap. It was as simple as that. And moving on from that, it has given my entire life structure. I simply wouldn't be where I am. I would not have found the meaning in the
Mhm.
world that I have found without such things. And the way that I talk about this now and find myself framing it is simply that we all have a particular highest and best use, that energetic signature, which is specific to us. And it seems like the eternal call to adventure
Mhm.
is to find out what it is. That is the journey. And then find it and bring it back home. And right now, most specifically, I'm living that out. I literally recently quit my day job to live out what I have found to be my highest and best use, which
Mhm.
is currently encapsulated within these books. And we'll just see where the journey takes me from here.
Cool. Very cool. So, what's it been like living in Texas?
I love it here.
Okay.
In short, yeah.
Yeah. The reason I asked about that is, we are in West Virginia, and a lot of national news is being paid attention to your electrical system, border problems. What's the real story?
Well, I don't know. I could just honestly tell you I'm not
Okay.
too up on everything just because I'm such a hermit when I'm
Right.
here and I'm in Austin too.
Okay.
So this is definitely like a bubble, a magical bubble within the state of
Hmm.
Texas that is simply very different. But
Right.
s- we did have that epic snowstorm
Hmm.
in September, right around September 17th. And that took us out for a week. I mean, here in Austin, as well as most of the state, there was power problems, water. It was
Right.
actually shut down from the city itself here, which was extremely alarming. It was sort of that we were on the edge of chaos. It never quite got there, but you were just
Hmm.
imagining that things were going to turn very much more terrible. And they
Terrible.
just
Yeah.
never did. Things came back on, which was nice.
Right. And those came back on. That was in January.
That was mid-February. It was almost a
Yeah,
month ago to date. Yeah.
right. Um, did you have preconceived notions of this being a possibility? Did, like, during rain trips, one of them say, you need to stock up on food?
I didn't have it delivered to me in any specific way like that, but I had many signs that were telling me just simply what I was doing with my
Hmm.
day job, which was flying for a cargo company. I was a
Right.
pilot for a cargo company, telling me that this was not the path. It's just simply was not what I needed to be doing. And actually, due to this storm, I ended up being forced to sleep
Hmm.
in our company plane overnight
Uh-huh.
on the Tuesday of that week, and that caused me to write my resignation email from the cockpit, and I
Right.
ended up driving off the job right after that. So that truly was like that transition, that bit of chaos in between shifting dimensions or something like that I personally was going through, as well as a lot of other Texans, of
Oh, yeah.
course, too. Yeah.
A lot of other Texans. Well, a lot of people. I think 2020 was really the year that we went back and went, what the hell are we doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have a question from one of our audience members. They asked, do you know about Lynn Andrews? And have you been in touch with any of her stuff or used any of her stuff?
I have not. No, I am unfamiliar with the name.
Okay. Okay. They say she's a wonderful teacher, so I'm assuming within the same realm because it's from Mary. But so what are you doing now other than just writing and
Right
research?
now, it's as much as I can of doing this, of simply having conversations about the books and essentially trying to talk with others, make connections in the spiritual community, and hopefully take this journey somewhere. Like I was telling you guys, it seems like all of the evidence is stacked up, and especially that last vision quest, that
Hmm.
I essentially need to be furthering this,
Right.
and this is the path for me. It's just within the last month become extraordinarily real when
Yeah.
I've quit my day job and began to really push it. So now here I am in that journey, and it's difficult to initially get momentum going to overcome that initial inertia, but I
Hmm.
have everything that I need. I have all the tools, and it's just now time to make it happen. So we'll see how it goes.
Cool. Um, so you plan on doing public speaking? What else? Do you have any other trips planned for Costa Rica? What are we doing?
I've been thinking about it. Yeah, I've been feeling the call to venture back to Mother Ayahuasca. I've only had three experiences with it.
Uh huh.
Two of them were the initial retreat that I went to in Costa Rica, and that started the process of writing. And then a couple years later, I had one more, which was recommended to me by a connection I met through that
Hmm.
retreat. And it was simply within the States, and that one was significant for me too. I ended up making a course change after that experience. And now, obviously, I've made another course change. I'm sort of feeling the call to go back and simply say,
Now what?
this is what, yeah, right. This is what I've got so far. Now what, if you don't mind? I could use a couple
Yeah.
pointers. So that might happen in the somewhat near future. But other than that, I really think just plugging into the network is going to be key. Like I was telling you guys, I've sort of
Hmm.
spent the last so many years in hermit mode, too much, kind of doing the work or whatever. And
Right.
now I feel like I'd like to interact with the information, and hopefully that is going to
And share
become
ideas. And with you
right.
being there so close to Texas, there is some shamans in New Mexico that work with a desert plant, very much like the Cicasellius, um, to do vision quests. And I think it would be interesting to see someone do all three and then do a comparison.
Mhm. Do you know what the plan is specifically?
I don't know
Mm.
specifically. I know it's a white flowered plant and it's a Native American dream quest ritual, but off the top of my head, I cannot say it is, desert rose and this is what you do with it. I know it's part of the belladonna family,
Mm.
which is a lot of what I have looked into as far as looking at some of the old trance medium behaviors, is they would do belladonna tea before they would do trance. And that's why I'm like, Same properties. Wonder if it's the same chemicals.
Yeah, I don't know. I have shied away from pretty much anything else in all of these spaces other than the mushroom,
Uh huh.
ayahuasca, peyote, and San Pedro, which is
Okay.
also mescaline. So basically, the straight plants that are
Right.
thought of as the classical psychedelics. I mean, specifically psilocybin and DMT operate more or
Right.
less the same way within the brain. Mescaline's a little different, but it's typically considered to be one of those classical psychedelics.
Right. And we're seeing a resurgence of it. I think that we'll also see a bigger resurgence of it in chronic pain and chronic fatigue syndrome and chronic issues in general, both psychological and medical. I'm hoping that we'll see more information over that is what I call serious information over the next 20 years. Because a paid study does not do me any good. People,
Mm-hmm.
true experiences do me good.
And that's really the thing about these plant medicines is we have an entire human history of that, of them
Right.
being used exactly for that, for medicinal purposes. So
Mhm.
now the proof is in the pudding.
Right. All right. Well, I'm sure you're working on your sixth book.
I am. It's halfway through. Exactly right.
Awesome. So make sure you come back and let us read it, and let's sit down and take a deep talk, dive into it.
Right on. Thank you very much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
this.
You have a great day, darling.
Thank you. You do the same.
Thanks. All right. Well, there we go. Now we've done the Alice in Wonderland movement. All right, y'all. All right, do the vanning because the
Oh
link
yeah.
is in the description. But let's show the books because I love the covers.
Oh yeah, the covers are great. So yeah, let me see if I can get the light happy on it. There we go.
Yeah.
So that is the first book.
Uh-huh.
And then we have the second book.
Mm-hmm.
And the third book.
Yep.
And of course the fourth book. I do love the covers. I love the cover artistry.
Right.
Like
And again,
those are so cool.
and you can get those at Amazon.com, Traveling Nomad, and all of them are there. His website is
Traveling Nobody.
Traveling Nobody, and then of course his website is travelingnobody.net. All right, so it's been a really bad week.
Oh, just because it's been a crazy news cycle again.
Mm-hmm.
Like, come on, it's not 2020 bad. Sorry, guys. I inadvertently put something under my desk there. But yeah, no, it's been a little wild and crazy news wise.
Yeah, we've had 2 mass shootings in a week
Yes.
for non-hunting related events. No bears or deers. Took AR-15s and went after hunters. We had a gentleman attack massage parlors, and then we had a shooting at a grocery store, and they don't even know the motive behind that one. But both of these, I'm a little pissed at, and this is my psychic hot take on it.
Mm-hmm.
How dare a police officer say that a mass shooter just had a bad day? Excuse me?
Yeah, that seems to be throwing off a lot of people, and understandably. I mean, that's probably the worst way. Like, that is the most. I'm trying to think of the exact word for it. It's just kind of like downplaying, minimizing, dismissive. Just, oh, he had a bad day. It's like, no, he killed people. That's what he did.
Yeah.
Like, if that's your definition of a bad day, I don't want to know what a disaster is. Like, because I call that kind of disastrous.
Yes, that's very disastrous. And then the other part of it that pissed me off was there's a lot of hate crime going on. There's a lot of hate crime on multiple levels. And our news series are just blinking over them.
Well,
finding pieces to justify it, which aggravates the hell out of me.
Yeah, well, and then there's and especially on the massage parlor shootings.
Yeah.
That one, the one that blew my mind was the discussion of he could not be racist because these were people that he had sex with. And I'm still struggling on that one. I'm going, what?
What?
it's like, no, this can simultaneously be, a sexual interest and a hate crime. It's like, that's a thing that happens. Otherwise, you really don't understand rape. You know,
Right. And
like,
furthermore, it isn't like he targeted his ex-girlfriends or he targeted his, his little black book of people,
mm-hmm.
because it's only he visited twice.
Yeah. Like, well, and the whole thing is just, it's kind of a hot mess.
Mm-hmm.
Because this feels like when religion leads you to kill. It's
Exactly.
like, who's been screwing around in your head?
Yeah.
Like, you've missed some messages.
Yeah.
Like, somewhere around thou shalt not kill was kind of a big commandment versus, okay, technically it's adultery, but come on, man.
Well,
Like,
again, I'm tired of anything that has to do with massages or already sex work. Anything that has to do with, and these were massage parlors, these were spas, these were places where you go and get your nails done and your massage done. And I am so tired of that stigma. He says he had sex with at two of these locations. He shot up 3.
mm-hmm. Well, and one of the things that came out of the news story is there's apparently an online site that lists these locations
Mm-hmm.
as locations in which sexual services are provided.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there are people who do ratings and talk about their experiences. There's literally a website to find specifically sex work based massage parlors, and these are listed. Like,
Right.
and I hate the fact that my first thought was, like, I had the duality of thought is, because the conversation was being made, or the conversation around the article being that, Asian women, massage parlor, like, all the words are there, and I'm going, so sex work. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, well, they didn't say that.
Right.
And I'm like, I shouldn't assume that.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that shouldn't add up 1 plus 2, 1 plus 1 equals 2. Kind of dead. But yeah, apparently I think a lot of sensitivity was paid in the beginning to make sure not to label any of the women involved in this as sex workers until there was at least a decent body of evidence for that.
No,
I
it wasn't. Breaking, when they released his statement, they covered it and said it was all about sex work. They then shamed the ladies instead of shaming the AKR 57 user and him shooting up. Oh, he had a really bad day.
Yeah.
Really?
No, at that point, yeah, there were a lot of things that went wrong and went sideways. What I mean is, originally, the original shooting reports didn't, like, they put the data there. They didn't necessarily draw the conclusion immediately.
Right.
Which I do have an appreciation for that, because I was kind of having a moment with it where I was like, oh, what are you trying to tell me here?
Right.
Like, seriously, reading the article, it was like, okay, like, what are we dealing with?
Right.
And then this is definitely going to be one of those stories I think is going to, I think, end up in that ugly category of blame the victim. Like, well, if you weren't in sex work, this wouldn't happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of the real story, which is quit killing women. Quit making it easy to kill women, and quit excusing killing people in general.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and let's, not even talk about, like, making it harder to buy guns that kill people in mass.
Right. Because, just for the record, and I tend to have to restate this every time we are talking about shootings, I am for logical gun control. Don't come get my Dillinger, but I don't need something that if I shoot a deer with, it'll be too bulleted to even make a steak out of.
Yes, which meanwhile, we do have sensible gun reform, at least involving background checks.
Hmm.
Currently, approaching our legislature at the federal level. And guess what? State senator is like, I don't support it.
Of course, Joe Manchin, Mr. Useless.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. When West Virginia was one of the first states to have a gun shooting,
Hmm.
a school shooting. Now they've moved on to shooting you at the massage parlor and then also at the grocery store. Let's moving on to the Boulder shooting.
Hmm. Well, and there's something to be said, and I'm not sure. We seriously had one of the first.
Hmm.
Wow.
Princeton High School. You wrote an article on it, the last school shooting we had.
Okay, well, I know, but I didn't know if it technically qualified as one of the earliest.
Yes.
But I do remember, like, because this was years before me. But there was still damage in the hallway. You know, gunshot to cinder block doesn't, really patch over all that easily.
Mm-mm.
Regardless of what you do to that, you're still going to have issues there.
Right.
Which we did. And it was one of those things that you couldn't not notice it.
Right.
It and the trauma of people of like the teacher still being in the classroom where this happened.
Right.
It's a lot.
Well, it is a lot. I grew up in an age, and I'm sure many of our listeners do, where it was no big deal. There were shotguns in the trucks and the cars and the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
They were never brought into the school. They were never allowed into school because they would have gotten their asses beat by their parents by the time when the parents showed up to pick them up.
Yeah, no, see, I hit that age group that by the time I went through, like, gun-free zone,
Mm-hmm.
like, we were already there, like, not in your cars, not in your vehicles, like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't even want to play with this.
Right.
Like, there were whole lists of banned weapons you are not allowed to have.
Mm-hmm.
And not all of them were things that you would immediately think of as weapons. If I remember correctly, like box cutters, not even allowed. Pen knives you could have,
Mm-hmm.
as in the
Right.
little artsy knife. You
Mm-hmm.
could have that. That
Right.
was about the closest to a sharp, deadly weapon you were allowed to carry on campus.
See, we growing up, if you had a pocket knife, woohoo, you don't pull it out in the middle of the damn classroom. If you had
Mm-hmm.
this, you were responsible. There was a level of responsibility. Like the locking the truck when you got out of the truck was
Mm-hmm.
a thing. Every hunter in the state made sure their trucks were locked.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and we had principals that tried their trucks and would like go collect their guns and set them in his office, and it was like, yeah, I got your guns. I expect deer. And again, this was a different era. Brenda talks about it too, is, deer rifles hanging in the back window of the truck. Guys went hunting before school. There were often deer kills in, one science class I can remember skinning a deer being part of the class. But that was a different era. This is not what we're talking about. An AK-57, never.
Yeah, well, and fully automatic or easily made automatic weapons are ultimately the problem. And while I don't think this legislation goes far enough,
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's like at least one sensible step in a right direction.
Right, and I
Like
understand why we
basic
red
background
flag
checks.
people. Well, real background checks, because we're going to talk about background checks here in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Kavanaugh and the investigation now on whether, um, whether he got a real background check or if he got a fast Nick check. Oh, Brenda's principal would go check out the deer in the back of the trucks. Yeah, comparatively. We used to have in sixth grade, every boy took a gun responsibility shooting class. Like it was required. You took 2 weeks, you done a gun shooting class.
Oh yeah. Well, and we're also getting side notes in our behind the scenes chat that yeah, we and I now I do remember what was mentioned there, what the invisible assistant, gotta love. After Columbine, there was clothes that got banned at his high school, namely full-length dusters and trench coats. Yeah, yeah, like we seriously thought at that point we were going to end up with the clear vinyl backpacks.
Yeah.
Like we were no longer able to carry those to class. We were no longer like there was whole lists of things
Right.
that like everyone was really super nervous.
Right.
And granted, the shooting at my high school happened before that. It was actually, if I remember correctly, because it's been a while since I wrote that. But it has it started basically over a boyfriend girlfriend breakup, and he went
Yeah.
over the moon.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
were there? Talk to me a minute. Was there one big hole in the wall, one little hole in the wall, or was there this whole wall that just looked like freaking Swiss cheese?
No, it was one spot in the wall. Basically, you could tell where a bullet had hit,
Uh huh.
and then because of the impact, it had broken off chunks.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and it was noticeable.
Right.
It was kind of like the inverse. Like imagine a spitball wad
Uh huh.
in reverse.
Okay.
Like that's the kind of little crater it created, but it was noticeable. Like you couldn't go past this wall because what had happened is that the student had had only fired one shot during the whole event. Fired one shot, basically as a warning,
Mm-hmm.
for everyone to get back
Right.
and like quit trying to approach him.
Right.
So like the one shot went straight out the door. So literally every time you went out that door at virtual eye level,
Mm-hmm.
there's the hole in the wall.
Right. But this is not the mass shootings that we've seen after Columbine. These are not the mass shootings we saw in 2019. Man, also reflect that in 2020 we had no mass shootings.
Yeah.
Interesting. Um, Now we're having shootings at grocery stores. 10 people were killed
Mm-hmm.
at this Boulder, Colorado shooting. Employees, we're getting information about, different things occurring there.
Yeah. Well, and Shannon's pointing out they tried to ban trench coats at my high school, and we did a sit-in wearing them 200 teens in trench coats.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like I think because of my particular high school's like history and knowing what had happened there,
Right.
I don't think we really pushed that one. Like we were like, okay, no, got it. And it had less to do with like I or at least my personal take was I didn't really feel like it was targeted towards a type of dress
Mm-hmm.
as much as it was just the physical logistics of
Right.
yeah, you could hide a gun in that. Like very easily you could hide a gun in that. Okay, got it. A very big gun.
Okay, because I'm going to say, honey, I've worn jeans out of this house and had my gun in it, and I don't think you've even noticed.
Well, probably, well, not meaning to, not really probably paying attention.
Well,
Like,
again,
I'm oblivious.
right. But again, that's the whole point of things, is this isn't the size of the gun. This isn't about the ability to hide a gun or have a gun. This is about freaking logic. If you know someone has a mental health disorder, they don't need to have a gun. If you know someone is going through a mental breakdown, they don't need to have a gun. You do not need to be able to own a gun that was designed for mass war shootings.
Well, but we also have to be very, very careful with the difference between long-term mental health issues and acute psychiatric episode.
Right.
Like those are two like massive crowbar of separation. And that's the one
Right.
thing that keeps getting brought up is, oh, this person had a mental health problem. This we really have to be careful not to label this as like every person with a mental health issue is, you know, a threat to themselves and others. That's not how that works.
Right.
But there are within that mental health conditions bubble certain situations and certain conditions that, oh hell no, get the guns away from them.
Right.
Like you know, again, going back to the teen not processing a breakup, you know, and this is now an acute thing that just happened and they have gone like totally off the rails with it. That's an acute act, you know, that's an acute psychological action,
Right.
or you know, situation that, you know, okay, that needs to be evaluated and handled and dealt with immediately, as quick as we can, because even if that was a student that didn't have access to a gun, that was a student looking for something, some way to force this relationship back together.
Right.
That's different.
Right.
Now, where this all gets fuzzy is when we're talking about long-term bullying and abuse.
Right.
Because ultimately that's where a lot of the school shootings at least come in at. Is this is long-term repetitive abuse.
Right.
You know, that this is like being surprised when you beat the hell out of an animal and it bites you. Like, you know, if you wouldn't do if you would take every time that you're saying things to someone and imagine you're hitting a dog with a baseball bat, I think we could fix a lot of this. Because you wouldn't be surprised if you kept hitting a dog with a baseball bat that it finally bit you. Like,
right.
Follow the logic here. Humans are the same way. If you keep, you know, hitting them, you know, physically or mentally, you're going to eventually create a situation in which, you know, so to speak, they bite.
Exactly.
Like,
and what gets me here and what is aggravating me, and this is that Denver had a ban on assault rifles. That they could not be sold or owned within city limits. It was defunct. It was challenged by you know who, and it was defunct and made void. The shooter there bought the gun 6 days before the shooting. 6 days, not 14, 6. What? Our their Denver city government tried to enforce this. They got sued the hell out of. By, of course, everything that's, and believe me, this will be fought all the way to the Supreme Court. They can pass an anti-gun ban now, and it will be fought all the way to the Supreme Court.
Oh, it most definitely will be.
Right.
And that's kind of a moment of welcome the challenge at the beginning, not later down the road.
Right.
Like, go ahead and take the challenge now.
Right.
And yeah, we're not alluding to, we're literally talking about the screenings for purchase of firearms.
Yeah.
And I mean that in terms of, again, separating the difference between mental illness and your actual ability, and your general mindset, to be a responsible gun owner. Yes. Like,
right.
Sorry, I'm paraphrasing and responding to at the same time what Mary has said.
Right.
Is that if you have a pattern of domestic abuse, gun ownership shouldn't be for you.
Right. If you've
Like,
got restraining order, gun ownership shouldn't be for you.
Yes. without like some serious, look at you before we allow this to occur.
Right.
Like
And that
this
takes
should,
more than 6 days.
yeah.
My NIC check that I have to get when I'm doing prison population
Mm-hmm.
took a month to get.
Mm-hmm.
A month. Most gun laws require a waiting period of 14 days. This was 6 days.
Well, and if I remember correctly, the biggest problem with our current system of background check is that it's it's literally, you could call it innocent until proven guilty. In the sense that when you run that background check, no response is a response. Only a response in the no, don't give them a gun, is that's when you actually have to do something. Otherwise, it basically just times out.
Right.
The other problem we run into is that there are situations in which someone applies for their background check is run, and it's literally the information couldn't get back in time.
Right.
In which case, because the information didn't go back in time, nothing could be done to stop the sale.
Right.
Then we tack onto that the problems that we've had with gun show and party-to-party sale.
Right.
In which case, you currently do not have to run a background check.
Right.
If you're at a gun show or if you're doing party-to-party sale. Which is effectively the same thing, except it isn't.
Right.
It's just the gun show is typically a lot of dealers, but it's person to person at the gun show.
See,
Like,
that needs to be cracked down too. Like, you're going to the gun show. You have to buy a ticket to go to the gun show. You should have to come there with your background check done before you're admitted. It's not that hard to do.
Yeah. Well, or if nothing else, like run the background check while you're there and then either ship the gun or allow later pickup.
Right.
Like to do something to secure that weapon until a background check is passed.
Right.
Like that should not be that big of an encumbrance. Because what ultimately is happening is we're treating like gun show sales sort of like this is an emergency.
Right.
It's like you're why are we treating gun shows like you're trying to buy a condom on prom night?
Right.
Like, hold on a minute. Like you like put it away. It's sort of where I'm at. Like, go take a cold shower.
Right. Well, it's like right now. If we wanted to fly anywhere in the world, barring the COVID restrictions, we would have to buy our ticket 2 weeks in advance, at least 2 weeks in advance. If it requires a visa to enter, you have to sometimes plan 6 months in advance to get that visa. It should be the same thing for a gun show. Like right now, we know that June 21st and June 22nd, there is a gun show in Charleston. If you want to go, it costs $25 at the door to get in. You have to have a background check when you get there. It isn't that hard to plan these things around. If you go, you don't have the background check, you don't get in. Point blank, don't allow them in.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I don't know why it's turned into such a big deal. Because again, all I can think of is we're treating this like condoms on prom night.
Right.
What's the rush to buy this gun? I understand for gun shows, in many cases, these are traveling vendors, which should technically scare everyone more. Just as a general like life theory, this should scare people more. That you have large numbers of traveling vendors showing up to an event who really, they're not part of this community. They don't care what happens in this community. They don't know the people in this community, and they're not really tied to anything that happens in this community.
Right.
So take a moment there.
Right.
Like, let that sink in. Like, I have way fewer problems with local gun shops.
Right.
Because I feel like they're at least a part of a community, and they have an understanding that, if you screw this up, you're going to get a reputation. And it may make you some money in the beginning as that place where anyone can go buy a gun.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also a reputation that's going to get you in a lot of trouble, because you're going to have a lot of ticked off, survivors of gunshot victims that are going to be very mad.
Right.
That you are the place in town where any idiot can walk in and lie to you up one side and down the other and walk out with a gun.
Right. And that's ridiculous. That is ridiculous on so many levels. I agree with, I love my local gun shops. I think that they are amazing. They do a lot of jobs. They've been a hub of our community. We're always alone up here. It's a lovely gun shop. They sell reputable weapons. They do gun trainings. They do concealed weapons permits. They tend to be within that range. When we were doing competition shooting, they were the ones there sponsoring and selling guns. But this is back in the late 80s, when the biggest gun you could buy was a 44, or no, a 301 was the biggest gun you could buy. There was no AK-57s. There were no, guns that you could take a paper clip and modify.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, done, over with. When this stems from Bush's problems, Bush did not renew the mandate. And this is reflections of what we're dealing with 20 years after him.
Mm-hmm. Well, and what we're also running into is a lack of accountability for gun manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that I can understand logically, I can truly understand, build a better mousetrap, build a better mouse.
Right.
In terms of, as you are manufacturing guns, you're going to have a certain part of the population that is going to be very knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
And will quickly figure out how to reverse engineer your gun.
Mm-hmm.
So that if they're looking to, get a certain, function out of it, such as, fully automatic, etc., out of your weapon, though someone will figure it out eventually, somehow. What aggravates me is the lack of accountability for how easy that has become.
Right.
That on certain weapons, that the sheer fact that you're talking about shaving off like fraction amounts of material,
mm-hmm.
that you literally could sit there with a piece of sandpaper and this is my rifle, this is my gun, and next thing you know, you have a fully automatic weapon.
Right.
Literally, that's what you're doing. You're shaving off microscopic amounts of metal,
right,
just to make that difference. That sounds like a manufacturing defect
to
me, that you're not, as a gun manufacturer, feeling that responsibility to limit the ability of a gun to be easily manipulated into a fully automatic weapon.
Right.
I'm sorry, that to me is just stupid.
AKR-57s and automatic rifles, fully automatic rifles, are not hunting material. They are not sporting material. You cannot go and prize shoot them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but they're in stores, just like tanks should be sitting on car lots if they were using the same marketing plan. And that has always been a problem for me. I can't buy a tank, but I can buy an AK-57. Doesn't make any sense to me. I can buy an AK-57, but I can't buy a flamethrower to take the ice off my steps. Doesn't make any sense to me, because the flamethrower and the tank are labeled as military use. An AK-57 isn't, because it's a gun. That's ridiculous.
Well, you also can't buy a flamethrower to take the ice off your steps, because I won't allow it.
You won't let me buy an AK-57 either. I think
I
the max
know.
you've gone up to is a 9 mil, and then I'm getting the fingerprint scanner.
There you go. But no, just in general though. Going back to comments we're getting, but Mary points out for some people buying a firearm is a power play. And I think for some people it really falls into that category of early adulthood kind of being a weird place. As in, it's sort of like, start smoking, get drunk, get a tattoo, buy a gun.
Mm-hmm.
Like all the things you used to be able to do, somewhere between 18 and 21. Now it's a little bit shorter of a list. Like you can buy a gun, but you can't buy cigarettes. Okay, I still can't figure that one out. So effectively, well, here's the thing. You can kill someone else, but killing yourself, like if you want to go down the avenue of where like health, where the health concerns are at, you can buy a weapon to kill someone else at 18. You can't buy a cigarette to quote unquote kill yourself until 21.
Mm-hmm.
Like, help me out with that.
Right.
Like you can't be self-destructive till 21, but you can destroy as many other people as you would like at 18.
Uh-huh. No, Brenda, your friends do not think you're crazy. There's a large majority of us here that would love to have one to handle ice and weed.
No. Brenda, I will say it on behalf of your friends right now. No. He's dangerous enough with like a cigarette lighter. I don't want to know what could happen with a flamethrower.
Mm-hmm.
Like, knowing our luck, it wouldn't be that he burns down the neighbor's house that we don't like. He would burn down the house of the nice neighbors who put up their like Trump lost LOL sign.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would be the neighbor whose house goes up.
Right.
And it'd be like, see what you did there. But yes. Oh, yeah. See, Shannon's with me. Like I would let him play with fireworks. If he wants to play with fireworks, that's fine. Flamethrowers, not so much. Nope.
Yeah.
And Brenda says it's okay. Her friends have already said no.
Well, the same guy that made Tesla has also made the lovely. Why am I getting a low ban order? Have made a lovely no, it's not a flamethrower, is what it's called.
It's called No, It's Not a Flamethrower?
No, it's not a flamethrower.
Okay.
It is a flamethrower, but no, it's not a flamethrower.
Oh, okay. Like, I think the best I'll let you do is if you want to get a creme brulee torch, I might allow that.
Uh-huh.
You de-ice my windshield with it, I'll hurt you.
Why would I de-ice the windshield with it? More so the steps.
I know, but I'm just saying. In case you get any smart ideas.
Mm-hmm. I might make creme brulee for you. And I asked him for this the other night. I said, honey, can I get a blowtorch? And he flips out, and I'm like, so I can A, charcoal these ribs, which was amazing, by the way.
Yeah, the ribs were great.
And B, can make you creme brulee. And he's like, I'm like, there are more uses for a blowtorch in the kitchen than there are in the outside.
Well, sometimes I just have to stop and evaluate with you. Mm-hmm. Especially after the other night. I've never seen someone have so much fun as to sit during Ostara setting bay leaves on fire.
Uh-huh.
He went little kid.
Yes, that's what you do in magic, is you get lost in the magic.
Oh,
one of my favorite forms of magic is flame magic.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think there was a whole silent hand raise of, that's that's a little scary. Like, just watching you with them, it's like, yep, he's going on a list of people that if houses catch on fire, the police should contact. Like,
I may go on that list, but honey, I do many.
Oh my god! I just figured it out. My autocorrect's been right all this time. You're not Aeson, you're Arson.
We are not remarketing me that.
What? It has popped up. I just got my autocorrect to understand you are not Arson.
Mm-hmm. So Sheldon White House, not at the White House, she is actually a congressman, is questioning the FBI on the fake background check it done on Brett Kavanaugh. Apparently, there are allegations that they never looked into.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Well, we knew that one was kind of rushed, pushed through, and like, oh, and Brenda points out her autocorrect still thinks you're Arson.
Mm-hmm. Well, my question is if it comes up, can we get him off the bench? And furthermore, why is he even a federal judge, much less a Supreme Court judge? Those will be my questions after this investigation is done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, and that brings up a lot of questions about, is a lifetime appointment really a lifetime appointment?
Right.
Like, if you can remove someone in that situation, which, I mean, technically, I'm sure there are many processes for removing someone from the bench. But it seems like we have not touched those.
Right.
Like, it's been kind of a sacred appointment.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we could have made the argument or left to discretion based on office that, you know, you will resign when you know you are incapable of being an effective juror.
Right.
That you will, you know, because wasn't it Sandra Day O'Connor who stepped down because of dementia? I think early stage. I think
That was one of them.
I think it was Sandra Day O'Connor.
Oh, they actually have to go through impeachment.
Oh, ghoul.
Yeah. And Samuel Chase has been the only one removed in 1805.
Well, removed, but there have been a few that have stepped down.
Right.
And I'm trying to remember. I thought, because I know that, or I believe, if I remember correctly, she does have dementia now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was she stepped down, and then much later it came out.
Right.
See
private chat for what the constitutional law is.
Oh, there we go. All right. So are we reading that one?
Yes.
Okay. The Constitution states that justices shall hold their offices during good behavior. This means that the justices hold office as long as they choose and can only be removed from office by impeachment. Has a justice ever been impeached? The only justice to be impeached was Associate Justice Samuel Chase in 1805.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. But that doesn't mean there have been a few that have stepped down.
Right.
Oh, no. Actually, I got it. I think I may have gotten it wrong. On July 1st, 2005, O'Connor announced her intention to retire. In her letter to Bush, she stated that her retirement from active service would take effect upon the confirmation of her successor. Her letter did not provide a reason for her departure. However, a Supreme Court spokeswoman confirmed O'Connor was leaving to spend time with her husband, who is suffering from Alzheimer's disease. I'm trying to remember. Okay, and then her post Supreme Court career. I'm looking to see. Okay, so I got a little confused there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But again, I think all governmental offices should have a term limit. Lifetime appointment, no thank you, for anywhere. And that includes renewing by election, which is what our Senate does.
Yeah. Um. Yeah, and I'm not necessarily saying I'm against. Like O'Connor was a little bit scandalous. Well, scandalous is controversial.
Right.
But in many ways, I do respect her. Like not always agreed, but I at least respected where she came from.
Right.
And that's despite, as Mary points out, being a Nixon appointed SCOTUS judge.
Right.
So, yeah.
Brooke, yeah, I remember that. He didn't make it to appointment to make it to a seat to the Senate. Kavanaugh should not have made it to a seat to the Senate if these allegations are found factual.
Well, but it also becomes a problem. These were not like failing to get a background check, though,
Right.
or a background check being conducted improperly. Is that going to be an actual case for impeachment?
Right.
Because that's like he didn't control that.
Right.
I mean, would you expect that a Supreme Court justice, knowing that they have significant and important reasons not to be appointed as Supreme Court justice, would you expect them to exercise the uh, I can't even think of the word right now, good judgment,
Mm-hmm.
to refuse the position?
Right.
I would think you would, but I don't know if that's really where this is at.
Right. Well, I can't remember who it was. I remember watching them, um, the confirmation hearings, and they were rejected, and it was over one of their former assistants had an affair with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's well, but then again, the Trump era kind of introduced the maybe this stuff doesn't matter,
Right.
or at least brought it into question. Like when you're considering like the Trump trip to the White House and everything that came out along the way that one would have assumed would have ended a presidential run
Mm-hmm.
that didn't. And then you start looking at like appointees and people who remained in positions
Mm-hmm.
despite all kinds of allegations. Um, yeah, I think that the political landscape changed on us in 4 years.
Right. And it's
Um,
going to take a year to get it back in order.
well, that's if we ever do.
Right. I mean,
Well, I mean, because
look at the effect Bush has had. Another failed president who was previously the worst president we've ever had. He has now been replaced with Trumpian Katanka.
and I will say, retrospectively, Bush wasn't so bad. Again, retrospectively.
Well, normally, we see the first year of the presidency as the year of change, of the new administration and changing things. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see much out of Biden's first year other than him cleaning up donkey shit.
Well, but more so, he has actually managed a lot within his first 100 days.
Yeah.
Well, and he's still in that.
Right.
Like
62 or something. He got 100 vaccines into 100 million into 100, and then he says, "Oh, since I've done that, I'm going to raise it another 100 to 150 million."
Right. Yeah, his goal was 100 million vaccinations in 100 days. He hit that at 59 days.
Right.
So yeah, that's already increased. Stimulus package went through,
Mm-hmm.
and like I think 0 days of golf.
No. But, he is getting fussed at for leaving on the weekends to go spend time with his grandchildren. Really?
Mm-hmm.
The man is getting fussed at for going and spending time with his grandchildren. We had a president that left office 5 o'clock Friday from Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah.
At our expense to play
Yeah.
golf.
Who said he wouldn't have time for golf?
Yeah.
But yeah, which is its own mess and was its own mess. But getting back to my point though, is I don't know that we recover from a Trump presidency. I think the bar has been lowered further than it has ever been lowered before.
Right.
In terms of things that make a politician resign.
Right.
I mean, there's things that have come out after people were presidents. There are things that have come out after someone, or many years into a Senate seat, whatever, that ended a career, then, despite occurring decades before. We literally watched it almost real time.
Right.
And it had zero effect.
Yes.
I'm not saying no one cared at all. I'm just saying that things that would typically have, just in good judgment, been like, your political career is over.
Mm-hmm.
Go home, get a good divorce attorney, and hope for the best, because all this is about to blow up for you. Like, your days of public service are done. Your general ability to be seen in public without scorn are over. That's it. You're done.
Which I've got to make this statement, and I'm going to make this statement just piss off some of our hate watchers. Biden is still president. It is now March 23rd. We have went through you calling him not, that the Trumpicator would step back into office on the 4th, on March 20th. Again, that didn't happen. Stop being doomsday cult members.
Or at least get better at it. Like, geez.
Yes. Now, moving over into tech news, Android's having an issue. Talk about this.
It has. And for those of you on Android phones, you probably had a rough night last night / early this morning. If you didn't catch it, either in the break room or through Mystic Computers, there is a fix for it. So right now, what you may be noticing are a lot of your apps have been crashing. Especially this morning. Effectively, what's happened is there's this lovely little system application on your phone called Android System Web View. Now, what this is for, and to let you know when that comes into effect on your phone, is, for instance, if you are in an app and you click a link, and it immediately, you stay in the app, but it brings up a web page, that's Android System Web View. That's what it does. Back in the early days of Android, you used to click a link, it would leave the app, go to a web browser, and then you had to come back. So somewhere along the way, they added System Web View. I think that was somewhere around like Android 5. Don't quote me on that. But somewhere in there. Yeah. So yeah, Shannon, all your games kept crashing. So yeah, there's a quick, simple fix for that, which requires you to go into apps, go into settings, go into apps. You have to go up to the little 3-button menu on the right-hand side. You can choose System Apps. You're going to look for Android System View. You're going to click on that one or touch that one. And then again, back, there will be another 3-dot menu. And from there, you will choose Uninstall Updates. And that will very, very quickly resolve your issue. There is a problem with the most recent update. It's ticking off a lot of phones. Specifically, it started with mostly Samsung users. There have been reports on literally everything at this point. That should probably get fixed soon. I did not check before we went to air. There may already be an update for that. So that's your alternative, is go see if there's an update. Basically just run your updates. It runs in the background. Android system web view doesn't typically pop up because it is a system application. Typically you won't notice the update come in for that.
Yeah.
But until, or if that doesn't fix it, go ahead and uninstall those updates. It'll take it back to the factory version, and your apps will quit crashing. What is happening with games and a lot of other apps? Amazon Shopping, for instance, is one of the worst ones right now. Is so much of that is web based that it literally can't even open without crashing. You'll notice it more in other apps when you try to view links that the app will crash. And there are some that, even though they're not as web centric, as in not everything they do is web based content per se, such as Gmail, it's one of the required basics. It's literally how it, I believe, displays HTML email. So yeah, kind of a mess.
Very much a mess, very much a problem. And thank you for being on top of it. And Mary's reporting in that Apple had to do a patch twice in a month, and so did Windows 10. The tech community is scourging on this, and us, geeks and mortals are having to deal with it. Now,
well, and just to address Mary real quick, there's been a lot of new stuff. There's been a lot going on in the tech world. Let me just point that out. There have been lots of massive patches needed to fix some very large problems. I would say the last 6 months has been filled with that. Like, we're just slammed right now with big, giant problems. A lot of them are old. A lot of them have taken a lot of time to fix. A lot of them have been very slow to roll out patches to fix them, leading to a lot of big problems. So right now is a really good time to stay on top of your tech news. And while sometimes the headlines are a little misleading, typically they'll quickly identify what apps are the problem, what is the problem. And it's just good to go ahead and scan for that and make sure, if you're using that app, read the article more carefully. If you're not using that app, you can walk away.
And I think it'll, continue to be something that it's going to be diverse, because I think we're going to have a lot of growth in tech over the next 3 years. And it's going to be very interesting to see some of the audio-visual options added for those that don't know. And I have started a new LinkedIn page. You can go find my new LinkedIn over there if you are connected to LinkedIn, because of two-factor authentication, and
as much as we love it. And let's talk about that for a second. This is the downside of two-factor authentication. You unfortunately had a double whammy event. And ultimately what happened is you lost the ability to recover on two-factor authentication. With LinkedIn specifically, it's been a headache all the way through the process. Unfortunately, if you turn on two-factor authentication, you have to be very, very, very careful and literally work in a very careful strategy of migrating between devices or accounts or even phone numbers based on how those different services work. I know I about had a panic attack when I got my new phone. I was in a rush, did not even think about having Google Authenticator and what apps were connected to it. I factory data reset my phone and then realized how bad I screwed up. Thankfully, I kept my emergency one-time use passcodes. I got back into everything. And as Mary points out, yeah, it's basically tech surgery. It's very, very finicky.
Right.
It's great security, and that's why we love it. But it's also like eureka level of disaster anytime something goes wrong with it.
Right. What I was saying and was going to bring up is what's interesting is I had one of the very early LinkedIn profiles, like when you had to have an invite to get onto LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
The new account is not an early one, it's a new one. And I have new features. I can, create a company page for the Psychic Coffee Shop. We can do stories now. So I'm beginning to question if it wasn't the universe's way of saying, you're too old, dude. Get off here, start over.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that kind of happens when you at least are staying up to date on technology and new websites and new platforms and new social media, is you can end up having you are on the bleeding edge and sometimes things get lost.
Right. And updates just don't become available. So those that are on my LinkedIn, you will be getting episodes of the Psychic Coffee Shop over there. You will be getting my daily card readings, unless I'm toast, which I'm sorry. Today I was toast. So you didn't get a daily card reading because I won't do any reading when I'm toast.
Oh, he was talking specifically about his account being too old. Yeah, no. He is not too old, and for any evidence that there is Clairol to address it.
Exactly.
Jokes I make.
I know. I am older than
jokes I get to make. I'm sorry, I can't hide my old.
Yes, you can. You just won't let me.
I am not getting a toop.
I am not getting you a toop. I'm taking you to Tennessee.
Oh, Lord.
And you're coming back with a full head of hair and looking like you're 20 years younger.
Oh, okay. Oh. I don't know.
Yes.
So what are we doing? Is that where the Bosley place is?
Yes.
Oh, good Lord. I think it'd be cheaper just to get the toop.
No, because then we can't style it and profile it.
Well, yes, we can. We just have multiple on a shelf.
And then what? We unsnap one and snap another one on?
Well, glue and unglue, apparently.
No, it's snap and unsnap, honey. Get with the times.
What?
Yeah.
No, I need more information. I'm missing data here.
They make built-in snaps that are implanted in your head, and you just snap the tube on and you unsnap the tube.
No!
Yeah.
No! I just see myself in a hurricane and it sounding like the opening of a basketball game. Like tearaway pants on my head. No.
No, it's not that easy. Like a snapped in hoop, I could grab you by the head of the hair and drag you across the room.
Oh, God. No. That's just too far for me. See, okay, now I would be more with Shannon. Like, I'm a little better with glue.
I know.
Like, not Gorilla Glue, but glue. Like, that makes more sense to me.
Okay.
I mean, it's still got to be better than that one poor unfortunate elected official that we will not name because we're not going to name and shame. But y'all, if you see him, He is from a certain county at the southern part of the state. All I can say is, dude, loosen the rubber band. Just loosen the rubber band, just a smidge. Because like this toupee / facelift thing you got going on, stop. Like all it's doing is giving you a weirdo head shape.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like it divots in right here and then poof of hair.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think he's literally putting too much pressure on his brain.
Well, that would explain his poor voting record. And
Yeah,
Mary, please read Mary's comment.
She says the fashion in New York City is shaved head for gents.
But
is that like a pashmina?
I don't know the styles in New York City.
Sorry, we're making a Jeannie Robertson reference there. We'll share that in the the break room.
You know, because Jeannie Robertson gave me my favorite nickname for him. He knows he's in trouble when I start calling him left brain.
Basically.
Or that he's done something. On to the grocery store, and by golly, they've had a special. I know they've had a special. Because he is left brain.
Mm-hmm.
He is left brain. I love it that he's left brain, but sometimes it just kicks in on him, and I have to decide if he's over degreed himself, and I've got to let it ride, or I've got to sit back and ride him on it.
Yeah, basically. No, I do have my moments. Oh, goodness. But yes.
But yeah.
So we have covered a lot of material tonight.
We have. I think we've cleared out all my docket. What about you?
Well, I did want to mention that we do have a push to strip VA benefits from service members and veterans who stormed the Capitol. That's Representative Ruben Gallego. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't know that honestly, I don't know who can't get behind that one.
Sorry, I think this should be treated like any other terrorist.
Yeah, but according to Business Insider, the direct quote is, the behavior of these individuals is not representative of the large population of American veterans, the mass majority of whom served honorably and are appalled by the thought of insurrection in the country they serve. Yet many of the veterans and service members who attack their own government actively and enthusiastically enjoy special benefits given to them by their fellow citizens. Such benefits include access to disability compensation, healthcare options, and vocational opportunities. So, yeah, there actually is part of the U.S. Code that would allow this to occur.
Now, you know, our resident VA expert, Mott, was in here. Emily Mott was in here. Sorry, guys, I'm having a voice problem. And, you know, Grumpy Tank has gotten a good doctor that was recommended to him 7 years ago, but I would love to hear her translation of Grumpy's Tank view on this.
Oh, yes, we would love to hear the Grumpy Take on that.
Yes.
Oh, we're going to call it the Grumpy Take.
Yes.
Like that was a Freudian slip on that one, and he turned from Grumpy Tank to Grumpy Take.
Yes. But no, I think this is well matured. I also think that any FBI, police, fraternal order of police members that were caught in this and are convicted should be stripped of their pensions.
Well, and I think that is kind of, at least on the law enforcement side, that seems to be a lot of where that's ending up.
Right.
Is that police departments are not being supportive of this one.
Well, see, but you also got to do the fraternity through, because a lot of the retirements are not run through the police department. They're run through the fraternal order. So that'll have to be voted on by the fraternal order. Former cop's husband, I know this shit. So I think that they need to do that quickly.
Oh, we've got a fun one. We have a scammer.
Oh, hello, scammer. Where is my banishing one?
And like, come on, you couldn't even spell her last name right.
Yes. Come on.
Like, that's endearing to.
How dare you
potential-
come into our room, into our stream, and do this bullshit? You take your little bullshit and bibbity bobbity boo.
There we go. So yeah. Oh goodness.
And
Always fun.
they are gone.
Mm-hmm. So yes. All right. So I'm trying to catch up on Shannon. Oh, Shannon was sharing the link about the barber and glue and style. Awesome.
Mhm.
Oh, Mary's session went down. What?
Oh, Mary's session went down and it came back up. I'm guessing we're hitting that mark.
Oh yeah. We crossed the threshold into hour 2.
Yeah.
As far as like it counts. Video break.
Exactly. So, guys, we're going to wrap up, but I do want to point out some things I've got going on. I also want to kind of talk about some other things. One, if you guys want us to cover the Capitol riots and look at some of these cases, we'd love to do that, but I'm not going to do that on a Psychic Coffee Shop or a Mountain Bear. So that would be a special episode. So if you're a if you're a Patreon, let us know in break rooms if you want that episode of us taking on some of these people that have gone into the Capitol riots. 2, I do not endorse or even like, as you can see, anyone coming in here and trying to get you guys to DM them for a reading. If you want to get readings from anywhere else, please do so. But make sure you go to a reputable place like Keen or a reputable website. Real psychics don't DM me for a reading. That doesn't happen.
Best Psychics being a lovely resource.
Yes, bestpsychics.com. Bob Orman. He is one that he makes better background checks than anything else. And he will go into it. He should go work at the FBI and he could probably vet a lot more people. But he's really awesome. It's Best American Psychics, and I will put the link in the description here in a minute. Go check him out because he keeps up with this.
Yeah, and it's not like you're opposed to other psychics. Like you've had other psychics on the show. We have like sung the praises of other psychics.
Well,
like, that's not the problem. The problem is like don't come in and start trying to poach people just like this is, infomercial hour.
Exactly.
Like that's just annoying.
Right.
Yeah. We don't like Viagra ad psychics. That's what we're pretty much primarily opposed to.
Right. So that's that thing. First off, not only that, but the people that I bring on, I vet. I know who they are. I normally have had to read them through them. The people I work with, I vet. Dottie the Psychic, love the girl to death. She's a great reader. We're working with her in mystic capacity, but at the same time, I will grab her for a project or she'll grab me for one. If you guys are not subscribed to her, she has a video coming up. And I will give 5% off. No, I will give 50% off a reading for the first person to message me on my site and tell me who and what I am in that video.
There you go.
There's that fun stuff. Second, tomorrow is Pagan Day of Prayer. I am running the 3:00 hour. Feel free to join me there. I will be streaming that on my channel. I may be streaming some of the other ones over on wherever you're seeing this at. But Lady Gwendolyn is putting that on, and we will be hosting and mosting it because, I am Lord of the Year. So, or I think that's what it is. Anyway, I got a pretty little plaque back there, right there. So I'm going to be there doing that. That'll be great. We done it last year. Who knows what I'm going to do this year because, I always do off the cuff. All right. And then, of course, Saturday is Psychic Saturday.
Power Saturday.
Power Saturday.
You just can't get those words off your lips.
No, I can't. I'm going to change it to something else. I promise you that title is changing. It may become, Aeson's Fun Day or whatever. The reason we don't use Psychic Saturday is everywhere I use a Psychic Saturday, and then, it's like, no. But anyway, that will be Power Saturday. I will be doing readings. They are on discount for the 15-minute sessions for $20. Of course, if you are a Patreon, you get an additional discount. Please remember to use your code. And also, we're going to be doing a couple live streams, and I don't know. I think one is going to be at 2. Look for the announcement of that one. And then I will probably do one at 8 or 9:30. One of the two. And it'll be a fun day. It'll be an interesting day. But this is a day where I think I'm going to take on the pendulum. And then I may talk about time shifting.
Absolutely. And as we pointed out before, just on Power Saturday alone, your $1 and $2 memberships effectively will pay for themselves in that one reading.
Yes.
So, I just saying, yes, and it'll also be Aeson's birthday.
Yes. So we may do a birthday stream. There's this weird thing on my altar in my living room that's starting to accumulate, which I think is cute. You want to tell them what has appeared on my altar?
Yes, I have finally figured out how to surprise him with gifts and ensure that he doesn't know what they are until his birthday. Amazon gift wrapping.
Well, not only that, but putting them in the one space that is like the sealed space in this house.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's great. It is. I'm loving it.
Yes. So that is.
He does. He has a collection of gifts. I was talking to him earlier. I think he'll be unwrapping those during the live streams.
Mm-hmm. I will. Of course, energy overviews will be coming out. Yes, it's very clever of him to do two things at once. One, gift wrap them so he's never seen them. And two, putting them in the altar in what I call my inner temple, which has all the shielding around it. So, of course, somebody's going to ruin my birthday.
I'm getting there. Slowly but surely, I'm getting
out.
Do you want now?
You are figuring this out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Yes.
But so we have all that going on. And if you do want to find out more about becoming a Patreon, let's go ahead and thank our baristas for being Patreons. We do certainly appreciate you guys. And again, if y'all have questions, like we haven't wrapped the show up yet, you can throw those in. But we do want to thank Beverly Walker, Mika G, Kathy, Mary Winfield, Brenda Bryant, and Ashley Guest. If you'd like to learn more about becoming a Patreon sponsor and to get that lovely discount that'll make Power Saturday super less expensive for you, please visit us at PCSPnetwork.com.
Yep. And plus, as a barista, you get to interact in a private Facebook group. You get private streams, private videos, early access to videos, and also things like, I don't know if I want to do this. What do you guys think? You get a voice into it. I think one of our baristas said, yes, yes, yes. She wants us to cover it. We'll see what the other baristas have to say, and I'll take that on. I am currently looking for opinions from our baristas for who do you want me to talk about on Psychic Tea?
Yes. And as for Mary's comment about me being a strategy guru, no, I just finally figured out that the best relationship book I could read for the two of us was Sun Tzu's Art of War.
That's a lovely book about how to have a relationship.
Yeah, I'm treating this as a battlefield.
We have an unboxing going to happen in this month. We're actually having the writer on, but I'm also going to do an unboxing and review of this, of the Journey of the Enlightenment Tarot. So we do have guests literally for every Tuesday of next month. We're still looking for guests for Mountain Bears. Of course, those guests are different guests, and we're going to be reaching out to them. But this is going to be a busy week. So just all in review. Tomorrow is Pagan Day of Prayer, so you're getting live streams then. Thursday, I hope to have a video coming out. Friday is Mountain Bears. Saturday is Power Saturday. So we've got programming for you guys all week long. I hope you guys are enjoying it. Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. Yes, hit subscribe. Love the subscribe and the like page button. Pound those up.
Share. Please share.
Yes.
Bring in newbies. Oh, and there was one other thing which you may not remember because you were already shutting down when I asked you about it.
Mm-hmm.
We backed a Kickstarter today.
Yes, we did. That'll be a deck I'm looking to review too.
Yeah, is the deck DECK of Care. It is a fun 52 card deck that is tarot inspired, but is about self-care. And the 4 suits are broken up into different areas of your life.
Yes. So we backed it. I do believe we get a deck, a promo deck.
Yeah, well, I decided to be extra adventurous, and I did too.
That's fine. And then, of course, we're going to do a review on it. And then I think I'm going to reach out to the creators and see if they want to come on the show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. To talk about it.
Yeah, it's a very cool Kickstarter. They've already hit their funding goal, so it should definitely get created. So we are super looking forward to that. They actually, I think, hit their goal within like just a few days.
Yes.
Like, it was super like boom.
So, yes. So that'll be fun. Those are some adventures we're going to go on. Of course, we're bringing you along. And other adventures, we're probably going to, I'm putting in a new garden. I'm probably going to film that. Look for that to come out. We got roses today to go into the front garden. So yeah, there's going to be some home vlogging, and I don't know. I've been thinking about doing a day in the life of, but I'm not sure if there would be enough content for that.
Well, you can also just share your Earth Witchy moments.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Because you are actually fun to watch when you're, well, not that I'll be holding a camera because I'm still scared of the, snake in the backyard that is apparently the size of a giant anaconda to me. But, or, a boa constrictor, somewhere in there.
A garden snake, Gus. A garden snake, which granted, apparently they're deadly in Texas.
Oh, yeah, you got to share that with the break room later.
Yeah.
Well, you did share that. I think everyone may have seen that already. Or did you share that personally?
I shared that personally.
Okay, yeah, that may be worth a share on your Aeson Knight.
Yeah, no, I think that's a barista share.
That's a barista share? Okay.
Yes.
Oh, Mary wants to know, like Beatles Day in the Life?
No, like I watch a lot of YouTubers, and one of them do a day in the life, and it's what they cook, how they plan, how they run their home school, that whole 9 yards. I'm debating on whether I want to do one of those for you guys and show you what life as a psychic really is.
There you go.
Yeah, because it isn't as fun, especially this weekend. It's been a lot of work. Of course, there's been a lot of other work going on too. All right, y'all. You guys have a magical evening. I will see you at 9 a.m. tomorrow when we start Pagan Day of Prayer. And let's see what else. Have fun. Wash your hands.
Mm-hmm. Keep wearing your mask. Get your injection when you can.
Yes, which they're opening up a lot more. If you're in the state of West Virginia, you can now register if you are 16 and above.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And we got the wonderful news that, what is it, the Moderna? Or is it the AstraZeneca that is now actually approved for use in those under 16?
I'm not for sure. I've been following Pfizer because they're developing a medicine.
Yes, there's also going to be COVID in a pill.
Yeah.
Or COVID relief in a pill. I forgot a word there.
Yes.
But yes, you guys have a great night.
Good night, y'all.